Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Multiverse. As we all know, Shadow the Hedgehog was introduced in Sonic Adventure 2, and although he was initially an antagonist, he eventually had a redemption arc. In an all-out struggle to save the Earth from an extinction-level event, Shadow the Hedgehog seemingly gave his life. And this was intended to be the end of the character. However, a mere 2 years later, with the release of Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog seemingly returned. This was due to his unexpected popularity. Shadow had really struck a chord with audiences, so naturally it made sense to bring him back. But now there was a problem. Since Shadow's story arc was already over, what can you do with the character? Well, give him amnesia, of course. Shadow may have returned, but his memories hadn't, allowing him to be a fresh slate for the story to do whatever they wanted with him. This decision sparked a subplot in the series, one about Shadow discovering his identity. In fact, we the audience didn't even know if he was the real Shadow, as it was revealed at the end of Team Dark's story that Eggman had been creating several robotic clones of Shadow, using his DNA and combining them with cybernetic parts. Now, it was stated for there to be this many clones, the original Shadow must still exist somewhere, and it was implied the Shadow we were playing as was the real Shadow. However, it was never directly confirmed. This was just things we could infer from the characters. This whole subplot culminated in the game Shadow the Hedgehog, which, whether you love it or hate it, it did confirm things about Shadow's past. According to the final story, Shadow did survive his fall to Earth. He had just lost his memory on contact. The Dark Hedgehog would be found by one of Eggman's robots and taken back to the base for cloning and experimentation. However, this ponders the question, how would things change if Shadow wasn't who he thought he was? What if Shadow was actually an android? This story begins at the end of Sonic Adventure 2. The orbital space colony Ark is on a collision course with Earth. If it hits the planet, it will be an extinction-level event. With their combined powers, Super Sonic and Super Shadow stand ready to stop the Ark. Together, the two hedgehogs raise their hands and enunciate the words, Chaos Control. Their combined power is just enough to stop the Ark's collision course with the Earth, sending it back to a safe distance, but at a hefty cost. Shadow hurled down towards the Earth, feeling his super form come to an end, and his limbs grow weak. In his final moments, he thought of the people on Earth. He thought of Sonic, and he thought of his dear friend Maria, who he lost so many years ago. With his final breath, he muttered,
Maria, this is what you wanted, right? This is my promise I made to you.
In a sudden flash of light, his super form ended as he fell to the planet below. As Shadow accepted the warm embrace, he felt a cool summer wind flow through his quills. The hedgehog opened his eyes. He looked around. He was in a lush forest. It was a sunny day without a cloud in the sky. Flickies and Chow ran around happily playing without a care in the world. And as Shadow looked to his side, he saw a young girl with blonde hair. This was Maria Robotnik, Shadow's only friend on the Ark, who sadly lost her life protecting the ultimate life form. She was enjoying an idyllic version of the world she so desperately wanted to visit. She looked up at Shadow with a smile. Isn't it beautiful, Shadow? Shadow looked confused, but smiled back. It most certainly is. Shadow didn't know if any of this was real, if it was some sort of afterlife or just his mind playing one last trick on him. But it didn't matter. All he knew was that he was happy. It didn't take long for Shadow's body to be discovered by a fleet of Eggman robots. The body was surprisingly intact considering the circumstances, but vital readings were negative. Shadow was dead. You see, the superform may have lasted long enough to survive re-entry, but unlike in the main canon, in this timeline, the superform ended before Shadow impacted the Earth, meaning that the fall snapped his neck on impact, killing him instantly. Eggman was fascinated by these circumstances, and even more eager to capitalize on them. By reverse engineering the blood of Shadow into his new bio machines, Eggman started Project Shadow Android. Within the first few months, the first prototype was created, the first Shadow Android. This artificially designed battle life form looked nearly identical to the original Shadow, but with a few mutations. Most notably, the red stripes along his body were now a golden yellow. This could be because this was a first attempt and the doctor logically wasn't as experienced with cloning at this point. Or perhaps it was because of how recently Shadow had been in his super form, meaning that the purest version of his blood would take on a more golden aura. Who knows, maybe a bit of both. All that was for certain was that Eggman successfully cloned Shadow. Ivo seemed especially proud of this. How appropriate that the grandson of the great Gerald Robotnik recreate his grandfather's greatest achievement. At least that's how he saw it. The android stirred inside its pod, unconscious but clearly alive. "Android, rise." The android gave no response. "Hey, Boltbrain, I said rise." The machine still gave no response. Eggman was now annoyed. He ripped open the pod, with the green liquid spilling out everywhere. "I said rise and bow before your master." Shadow Android suddenly sprung to life. He stared at the blubbery fool standing in front of him. "Who are you, and why have you brought me here? And who am I?" Eggman began to sputter, trying to come up with something to get his machine back in line. Well, you see, answer the damn question." In a quick motion, Eggman slammed an emergency switch, resealing the pod and filling it with a green liquid nerve agent. Although Shadow Android tried to resist it, he soon fell back into slumber. Eggman took a breath, considering what to do with this Shadow Android. He considered destroying it, but he felt that it could still be useful to his plans of world domination. He just needed to come up with a way to control it. However, for the time being, he set a reluctant E123 Omega to guard over the android. Omega felt that his potential was being wasted. However, he was forced to comply. In the coming months, Shadow Androids were being mass-produced, now more closely resembling the original Shadow. However, it should be noted that this new batch of Shadow Androids are far less powerful than the original. For reference, the original Shadow Android has 90% of the strength of the original Shadow, while these androids only possess 10% each. This is because of two reasons. One, because these Shadow Androids are designed to be mass-produced. Unlike the original that gets the personal care put into it, these are designed to be a part of an army. And the second reason is because these Shadow Androids are more mechanical than biological. This is to make it easier for Eggman to control them. Eggman truly had high expectations for the new breed of Shadow Androids. However, he wouldn't get a chance to use them, as soon after their completion, Neo Metal Sonic took over the Eggman Empire. An undisclosed amount of time passes as an intruder breaks into the very base where Shadow Android is being held. It was Rouge the Bat. She had come in hopes of finding Dr. Eggman's secret treasure. As she opened the pod, for a split second, she thought this was the real Shadow. But before she got a better look, gunfire suddenly erupted in the room. Omega had been activated. Omega was determined to destroy all the Eggman tech in the room, including Shadow Android, as retribution for him being abandoned and his potential being squandered. However, after a brief tussle and a brief talk, the three realize that they all have a common enemy in Dr. Eggman. However, although she didn't say it, Rouge was more interested in figuring out what was going on with Shadow. He didn't seem to remember anything. He didn't seem to be harmed from his fall to Earth. And why was he suddenly a blonde? Rouge intended on getting some answers. And hey, if she got some treasure out of it, so be it. From here, the events of Sonic Heroes play out relatively unchanged. Team Dark is formed, Shadow comes across a robotic copy of himself, but he's not sure what it means yet, or what the connection to himself is. Rouge discovers a battleship worth of Shadow androids, which Omega immediately destroys. And finally, the trio helps stop Neo Metal Sonic during the last story. Several weeks pass. Shadow Android is standing outside of Westopolis. Who is he? Who is this Shadow everyone refers to when they stare at him? Why can't he remember anything? Who is this Robotnik? And why did he wake in his laboratory? Shadow shakes his head. He doesn't know what this all means, or what it means for him. However, his thoughts are interrupted as he looks at the sky and sees clouds, but not normal clouds. These ones took on a blood red coloration. Shadow looked to the heart of the city, where the storm seemed to be at its peak. And to his horror, hundreds of disgusting black and red monsters collapsed from the heavens, falling one by one into the unsuspecting city below. Shadow watches on from the hilltop, unsure if he should interject or not. But then, a humanoid creature appears in front of him via a hologram. It begins to speak.
Shadow, the day of reckoning will soon be here. Find the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and...
The creature then takes a closer look at who he's talking to. This thing clearly has Shadow's appearance and his DNA. But he could detect something different about this, beyond simple physical appearances.
You're not Shadow. What is the meaning of this? No matter. Stay out of my way, you pathetic imposter.
And with that, Black Doom disappeared, leaving a very confused Shadow Android behind. However, he was sure of one thing. If these Chaos Emeralds were as important as Black Doom put it, maybe they could help him. Besides, they seemed to be important to whoever this Shadow was. And with that, Shadow Android raced off to find the Chaos Emeralds. And this is where we're leaving this what if for right now. So, where do you think the story of Shadow Android is going? And how do you think the events of Shadow the Hedgehog will play out with Shadow Android as the lead? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm CommonFan13, and I hope you have a good day.